you want to make. D.A. Harris?
Thank you, Jeff. I think that it's important. There's been a lot of talk about the prison system, and I do believe, Barry, that there is a role for CDCR to step up, and in particular, recognizing that reentry really begins at the point that someone is sentenced for the crime. Reentry should begin at the point that we are sentencing them to state prison and creating a plan at that moment that will include a partnership with CDCR in terms of the plan during the time they're incarcerated that will be consistent with the plan we will have after they're released. So that's one point I'd like to make. The second point is that let us please also remember that the other point that Barry made, and I think many people have made, it is local in terms of our ability to be effective. We've got so many resources, natural resources at the local level that really make reentry real. And for that reason, please keep in mind the strength and significance of having meaningful reentry programs around those who have not yet been sent to state prison but have been sent to the county jail, who have been arrested or convicted of felonies and perhaps have not been sentenced to any time but maybe credit for time served. And what we can do again at a local level, given the carrot and stick that we have in the criminal justice system, to create incentives for positive behaviors. We do have programs available out of the mayor's office which have been building and we're building on around the issue of workforce development and creating partnerships and promises and contracts with the private sector around jobs. And Back on Track, we've been able to do that. And with the San Francisco Reentry Council, we have done that. The San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, for example, is a partner, as is the San Francisco Labor Council. And they have all made commitments to get the Back on Track participants jobs. So I think it's important that we know in this room that there is a reason to be optimistic, because good work is happening, and part of, I think, the reason for convening is to build on that and to become even more collaborative in the way we get that work done. It also bears noting that there's a real responsibility, and I see Judge Donaldson here, there's a real responsibility and role for the courts to play in reentry. And in that regard, in Back on Track, for example, we set up a court, the Back on Track court, and I think you all would be happy to know that Judge Thelton Henderson is one of the judges who reviews the progress of each of the participant. And, you know, we all want to please Judge Henderson. And so there are incentives that are being created through the court system with judges who are volunteering to be a part of this process of making reentry meaningful.
Now we're going to go to questions again.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. My name is Felicia Jones, and I am a case manager and facilitator at the San Francisco Sheriff's Department Roads to Recovery. And first of all, let me say thank you for all of you for attending the summit. I think it's very well needed. One of my questions is this. Within Roads to Recovery, I am one of the case managers and facilitators, but within the jail, I also work with young people between the ages of 18 to 30, in which I developed a mentoring group called Discovering Your True Selves. And Discovering Your True Selves are these individuals, mainly 18 to 26, who really identify themselves and feel that their life is based upon money, sex, drugs, guns, and rap. And in other words, they identify, I am a thug, I am a dope dealer, I am a beast, I'm a shooter. And in all of this, where exactly do they fit in? I don't know of any resources, because what happens is, you know, under the leadership of Michael Hennessy and George Durand and Floyd Johnson, who has allowed me to develop this group in the way in which I see that it's needed, when they come to me and we talk, because it is an open forum and I let them talk the way they need to talk in order for them to identify with who they are and what needs to be changed, where in this continuum are they? Because I don't see any resources that really open the doors to the thug, to the dope dealer, to the rapper, to the shooter. And, you know, I really need to know, because I'm working with them, I'm making some strides with them inside the jail. But what happens is when they tell me, Felicia, we need this outside, where should I refer them?
Let me give the panel an opportunity to respond to your question.
Well, initially, I would say this new program we're going to start called NOVA, which is going to start next month, is specifically geared towards people who've been charged with crimes of violence. Now, not maybe everyone in your group has been charged with or has a history of crime or violence. But it's going to be very full service. It's going to have supportive housing, case management, RSVP type counseling on the outside, and that is one resource.
Okay, now let me interrupt you for a minute, Sheriff, and I'm definitely
excuse me, we're
indebted
going to have to
you.
do.
Okay, I just want to say one thing.
Excuse me, there's a long line of people behind you, and we got to
Yes.
be fair.
Okay, Jeff,
Everybody-
I just want to say one thing, and this is to go back to what Mr. Chrisberg has said, and that in Nova, are there going to be people who look just like them who they can identify with?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sybil Sattler. I'm with the Homeboys Hotline, and I want to know, when Clinton was in office, he made a law that if you've been convicted of a drug offense at least 3 times, you could not get a dime to go to school. And I noticed on a financial application, ask, have you been convicted of a felony? Well, how's a person supposed to turn their life around if nobody's going to give them a chance? Because we live in a society that judge you by your past. They don't know what the future is, but they know what your past is. And how does a person change their life? It takes money to go to college. I'm a witness. I owe the government over $100,000, and I ain't never spent a day behind bars. So where are they going to get the money to go?
If I could address that point, actually, that was formerly the law, and I believe it was George W. Bush who changed that and made a person who was convicted of a felony ineligible to receive educational loans. Last year, that was reversed, and so that is no longer the law. But there still are incredible disadvantages that come along with the felony conviction. And my office has a clean slate program, which helps. That's a public defender's office clean slate program, which helps people clear their records, and so you can get your record cleared. It's called an expungement for the purposes of employment and for education.
Just one other tactic related to that, and I give credit to Supervisor Tom Amiano as well on this, and that is that if you apply for a job in city government within San Francisco, they have erased that box that used to be on the application form asking if you had ever been, an offender before, if you've been incarcerated. So that now has been erased from the job application stage.
Okay, thank you. Next question, please.
Yes, hello, and thank you for everyone who's participating in the panel and here. My name is Joanne Warwick. I've served before as a parolee defense attorney. And my concern in providing all these programs is that if we don't get a handle on the extremely high number of revocations to begin with, we're going to have a hard time getting some people into the programs. So my question is to all of you and everyone in the council, if we could try and focus on how can the local community, which has responsibility for people returning, step into the stage of placement of the parole hold. And for those of you who don't know what a parole hold is, it means a parole officer, when someone is cited for a violation or catches a new case, places a parole hold. And so even if a judge would let a person out on bail, that person cannot bail out. And then the person will be incarcerated for probably 35 days minimum, if not more. And if they had a job, they're likely going to lose it. And that's a big problem there. And I think Michael Bean and others have pointed out that if there were a real risk assessment at that stage where a representative from the local community could come in and advocate for the parolee and for the community, I think we could prevent some of these revocations. And just to tell you, and Ms. Poe, I'm glad that you're here and you recognize that there's time for change. I think we should survey the parole officers on what they need because they have an overwhelming job and the resources haven't been there. However, one thing I think is very important is, just to give you an example, I did a...
I'm going to have to just ask for a question.
I did a parole revocation hearing and I asked the parole officer, what factors did you consider in placing the parole hold? The parole officer said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, I'm talking about California Code of Regulations, Section 2602, factors to be considered, one of which is community relationships, which would be all of these programs here. So that involves training, and I think if he didn't know in the high numbers of revocations, there may be a lot of other people who are not going through the steps they're supposed to be going through. Perhaps if we could consider changing the form to put those factors in there so they would consider it, and would you all consider some form of negotiating an agreement with parole and CDCR to step in at that moment of the placement of the parole hold to make sure we've examined all the possibilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.